After installing the port, our final step is pressurizing the housing. The pressurizing the housing allows you to see if you have a proper seal or if you're watertight. We do this by pumping air into the housing, and we do that through a valve. As you can see on the housing, there is a tiny valve right here, and that's allow you to attach the hand pump that I have provided. And what that does is pump a little bit of air in here and pressurize your housing. It'll tell you if it holds air, that means your housing is properly sealed and it's watertight, and so when you take it in the water, it won't leak. The first thing is to get familiar with the pump. This is a hand pump right here. At one end there's the handle, which operates by pumping it like this, and this is the line that attaches to the housing. This part here screws on to this valve. On top of the pump there's a gauge. Now this gauge will indicate how much pressure you put inside your housing. We're gonna go a little closer so you can see what this gauge is kind of reading. Let's see now if I can get this closer. You can read it. Okay, on this gauge you see the black numbers and lines goes from 0 all the way to 15. This is actually 15 pounds of air pressure. So this gauge will hold from 0 to 15 pounds of air pressure. What we want to do is only pump 1 pound of air pressure. If you see on the left hand side, it goes 0 and then number 1, and there's a bunch of lines on the bottom. Now when you pump this thing up, this arrow will pump up to the number 1 as you're pumping, and what you want to do is just pump to number 1, and you'll be at 1 pound per square inch. So that's what you're putting in the housing. That's all we need. We don't need to go more than that. If we go more than that, then you can ruin the housing. Okay, so we just pump it up to 1 pound right on that 1 there and the line. Okay, so the first thing we do is remove this cap that we have here that's covering the valve on the housing. This cap, you need to put this on every time, and on this cap it helps seals the valve from having water inside. So we move this cap, and what we're gonna do is attach the line. This line here, right here, that's attached to the pump, can turn. See? So we take this end and we screw it on to the valve. Take your time. You want to tighten it to where it stops. Sometimes it takes a little bit more turning. Okay. Now we're at the stage where we're gonna pump this up to the 1 pound that we said that we were gonna do. So let's get it to pump to 1 pound here. So all you're doing is we are pumping with our hand on this side, just like this. Okay, and we're just gonna pump it to that needle points to 1 pound. Okay, that's all it takes. Doesn't take very much. So as we can see, we get a little closer. We're at 1 pound. Okay. We're at 1 pound right there. So now all we gotta do is wait. If the needle drops to 0, that means you have a leak in the housing or it's not properly sealed. Sometimes you just have to tighten down on these O-rings by tightening down these wing nuts. So if you see that it's not seating right, all you gotta do is tighten it down and try it again. All the purpose of this is to show that it's holding air, that 1 pound in the housing, which if it does, it means you got a proper seal and no water is going to come in. It's actually a really good device to ensure that every time you take your housing out, it's safe to take in the water. And sometimes when you're on a trip, during transit, something can happen to the housing. Something can crack, and if you don't know how to test it, there's no way to test it. You take it in the water, then you're gonna drown your system. So we're about a couple minutes. You leave this maybe about 5 minutes, and if you don't see the needle drop to 0, this is ready to go in the water. So it looks like this one is sealing. It's all fine. So the next step is to detach this by unscrewing this pump from the valve. Simply just turn it, unscrew it. You leave the air inside the housing. That'll help in actually preventing water from going in. Okay, that's off. Then now we put back the cap, this cap right here. It's hand tight, no tools. Yep, everything's ready. We're going to water.